has France actually given the world? Le Mans, the Eiffel Tower, some smelly cheese. Well, I'd argue also probably the best small cars. Let's look at the back catalogue. From Citroën you've got the Visa, the 2CV, the AX. From Peugeot, the 104, the brilliant 205, the pretty 206, we'll skip the 207, and now the brilliant 208. And from La Regie, we've also had the Renault 4, 5, countless generations of Clio, and since 2012, probably the best small EV on the marketplace, the Zoe. But as we've seen recently, this is a burgeoning marketplace with lots of new small EVs coming into it. So, does Papa and Nicole have to go somewhere else to get their electric kicks? Or is the Zoe still Le Grand Fromage? Let's find out. Vive la France! Since its launch in 2012, the Zoe has pretty much had the marketplace all to itself. But in just the last 12 months, we've seen cars such as the new Peugeot E208, Vauxhall Corsa E and Volkswagen Group triplets of the Seat Mii, Volkswagen E-Up and Skoda Citigo, and not to mention one of our favourites, the Mini Electric, muscle in on its marketplace. Sitting alongside the internal combustion engine Clio, the Zoe was just one of many EVs that Renault launched onto the market, and while some of those have now faded into obscurity, the Zoe now lives on here in its third generation. Now, at launch in 2012, the car was offered with just a 22 kWh battery, giving between 60 and 90 miles of range, and powered by an 87 brake horsepower electric motor. In 2016, the Gen 2 car, the battery size increased to 41 kW, and 2 years later a revised 110 brake horsepower motor came along. For 2020, the 110 remains, albeit with a new 50 kW battery pack, but there is also the option of the R135 that we have here, giving 130 brake horsepower, and this is the car that we have in GT Line trim. The new Zoe is, well, pretty much like the old Zoe. The basic silhouette and most of the sheet metal work has remained, and that's quite a good thing because it is a pretty little car. There's a slightly more sculpted bonnet at the front and more design detail round in the lower nose. You also get these nice alloys on this GT Line car, and the front and rear lights are also now LEDs. As with most modern super minis, the Zoe comes as a 5-door only body shell. The rear handle for the doors at the back is neatly integrated into the rear C-pillar. Credit where it's due to Renault, because what they've actually managed to do is increase the size of the batteries which are underneath the car without actually decreasing the interior space. It stays the same as the previous generation's cars, although it can be quite tight in the back here. It shows pretensions of being a 5-seat car, but this middle seat really isn't ideal. It is just ideal for 4 people. These headrests also need to be popped up into position as if they're left lower, get you right between the shoulder blades. The boot is a good size for the car as well, at 338 litres, and on this new model you get the 60-40 split rear seat, whereas before it just folded in one piece. I'm pretty sure it should also have a false floor in this car, and I think maybe it's just missing in this one, because I'm sure I've seen it in other cars. Because without it, it makes this cable storage look a little bit untidy just in these bags. The other thing I'm not so keen on either here is this exposed metalwork here. It feels like they sort of ran out of plastic when they were doing the interior, or they just couldn't be bothered, or a bit tight. Not that I'm making any stereotypes of a left of the middle European country, of course. Along with the bigger battery and motor, the massive area of improvement on the new Zoe is in the interior and its quality. I've always found Renault to be very high on design of their interiors, but unfortunately lacking in build quality. This isn't the case with the new Zoe. The old hard plastics and Etch-a-Sketch infotainment system has been replaced with a much more modern and up-to-date one, and much nicer soft touch materials, which brings the car more in line with its newer competitors. The dashboard material and the centre console feel nice, but the door cards retain this hard plastic, which is a little bit disappointing. There's a nice design detail on the headlining, however, and most of the switchgear has a nice chunky feel to it. You do sit very high in the car, however. The batteries are slung underneath and there's no height adjustment on the seats, so you tend to sit on the car rather than in it. But there is height and reach adjustment with the steering column, which allows you to tailor it a little bit. This GT line that we've got here also features this sort of half leather, half cloth seat material, and I must admit I really quite like that. It's very nice. It's also got heated seats in this model. This one's got the heated steering wheel fitted. It's got the 9.3-inch touch screen with Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. We've also got a plethora of cup holders down here, a wireless charging pad, and this new Audi-esque gear lever selector or transmission lever selector. The car now comes with a 52 kilowatt hour battery, which should, according to WLTP figures, give a range of about 245 miles. But what's brilliant about Renault is they've actually been more realistic in that and saying you're probably going to get somewhere between 160 and 220 miles depending on your driving and the time of year you're at, and I really applaud Renault for doing that. The car also now comes with the option of CCS charging, which you can do through the port in the front of the nose. A normal 7 kilowatt wall box will charge you from flat to full in just over 9 hours. Do you need the fast charge option? Well, although Renault is predominantly a small town car, given this new extended range, you might want to venture further afield with it. So for those who do, it is a welcome addition. You know, it might seem a little bit churlish to throw the Zoe down a little winding back road in Sussex, because it's not really its forte. No, it is a small town car. But that's not to say it shouldn't be able to cope with things like this. After all, it now has that big extended range of 245 miles or thereabouts. You may want to use it outside of town, and don't get me wrong, you can. It's just don't expect it to be a B-road blaster. The steering is light to the point of it being a little bit vague. It doesn't have the communicative rack of the Mini Electric that I've been driving over the last few months. But then, nor should it have. That's not really what the Zoe's about. No, it is a small car that's nice and easy to use. It's nippy, it's quick, it's 130 horsepower, and whilst it's not a hot hatch, it's certainly on the warm side of tepid. Gaps in traffic can soon be filled with something Zoe sized very, very quickly with just the press of the right foot. Where it slightly falls down, especially through town, is without doubt its ride quality. French cars, in my opinion, should cause it. The Zoe doesn't. I'm afraid I'm going to have to use one of my favourite words in road test parlance. It's a bit jiggly. There's no other word for it, and I do apologise, but it's true. Manhole covers, expansion joints, broken tarmac just put the ride into that little bit of, it's just on the wrong side of firm. It just doesn't feel settled. The other problem, of course, there is these seats. Now, whilst they are very firmly padded, and that's fine, they don't offer a huge amount of side support. So if you do decide you're going to start hustling the car along, you find that you tend to roll around in the seats a little bit more than you should, and well, that's not really ideal. You can change the brake regeneration system, however, with the transmission lever down here. Now, unlike other cars that have 2 or 3 different levels of brake regen, the Zoe has one. It's either on or it's off, and that's quite nice. It doesn't give you that one pedal driving experience that some of the other cars do, but it bleeds in nicely when you've got it activated. You activate it by pulling back the transmission lever here from D to B, and that activates the brake regen, which, as I say, bleeds in quite nicely. The chassis itself is very, very good. Don't get me wrong, it's not a Renault Sport, it's nowhere even close to that. But other than the jiggly ride, the dampers feel good on the roads. They do tend to they absorb well. You get a good feeling of body control of the car, and as I say, it's probably the fact that the body stays as flat as it does, whereas everything else moves around. It means that you roll out of the seat a little bit more, so it's not really ideal. But as I say, that's not the car's forte. Whilst the steering is vague, what you do have is this nice leather rimmed steering wheel on this GT Line car. It's got a nice girth to it, it's got nice controls across it. I tend to hit some of them with the heel of my hand, but that's more the way that I drive a car rather than a fault of the car itself. It turns in nicely enough, as I say, but you're never really sure where the front wheels are actually pointing. The upside, of course, is it does make the car very, very easy to park. You also get parking sensors with it and a reverse camera, which is reasonably good quality on the screen down here. Now, originally, with the previous generations of Zoe, what you could do was buy the car, then lease the batteries from Renault. Renault have now stopped that option in the UK at least, but the Zoe's always been quite competitively priced. You've now got 3 trim levels and 2 power options within the range. You have, starting with the 110 Play model, which comes in at around about £26,000. You then move to the 110 Iconic model, which gives you slightly better trim, albeit with the same power. And then we have this car here, the 135 GT Line at £30,000. Now those prices also include the £3,000 government grant that's currently in play at time of filming. So it ensures the Renault Zoe remains competitive with its more modern and up-to-date rivals. Now, as I said before, it's the small supermini EV class that seems to be bursting with new models at the moment. We've already seen the Mini Electric, we've already seen the Honda E, and also the Peugeot E208 and the Corsa E. These are direct rivals for the new Zoe, but then lower down the price bracket we've got the Volkswagen Group triplets, which are the Seat Mii, the Skoda Citigo, a car which we're going to be testing soon, and also the Volkswagen E-Up. But Volkswagen are also about to come in at just over the £30,000 bracket with the new ID.3, which should launch later this year. So here's what we like and what we don't like about the third generation Zoe. We like the styling, its class leading range, the improved power on this GT Line car, the improvement in interior style and quality, and the fact that it is still competitively priced. We don't like the high driving position, the lack of side supports on the seats, the big steering and slightly jiggly ride, and the exposed metal in certain areas feels a little bit penny pinching. Like we did with the big SUV EVs, it's very difficult to say which is the best in its class until we've driven all the contenders. And at the moment, due to the world situation, we've not yet had a drive in the Vauxhall Corsa E or the Peugeot E208. Controversially as well, I'm also going to discount the Mini Electric from this because I don't really think they compete. I think the people that are going to buy the Mini Electric will buy it because it's a Mini, albeit one that's just powered by electricity. The Zoe is going to appeal to a much more mass market crowd, which is where the Corsa and the E208 come into play. But let's not take anything away from the new Zoe because it is a brilliant small car. What Renault have done is really, really clever. It's a mild facelift but a massive tech lift with the best range in its class. If you are the owner of an old Zoe and you're looking to upgrade, then it makes perfect sense. Or if you're more interested in miles than smiles, again, it's certainly the one for you. The E208 and the Vauxhall Corsa E are really going to have some tricks up their sleeves if they are to knock the Zoe off this top spot. Thanks for watching and we'll see you again next week. So, you've watched our video. It's now my job to tell you to like and subscribe and press the little bell button to receive notification of when our next video is uploaded. Sorry, what's that? You want more than just videos? Okay, did you know that AutoEV is also a website? That's right, autoev.co.uk. Not only is it all the latest news, reviews and musings, including motorsport from the electric vehicle world, but we've got literally hundreds of used electric vehicles for sale from dealers up and down the country.